when you operate outside of your comfort zone, it becomes part of your comfort zone. So you kind of
Yes.
push the boundaries, you push the borders of what's possible, and next thing,
Hmm.
you can do it again.
You are listening to 5 a.m. podcast. Your morning motivation starts here.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast. I'm your host, Michael Clausen. Today's guest is on a mission to unmask the reality of what it actually takes to build a life of significance. Boaz Gilad is a man of many chapters. He moved from Israel to New York to be an actor and found himself becoming one of Brooklyn's most prolific real estate developers. He is the founder of Zenith Clubhouse, the author of The Real Estate Millionaire, and is currently launching his new book, The Zenith Code. Boaz doesn't just build properties, he builds high performers into people who can break through their mental barriers and replace performance myths with real systems. Whether you're an entrepreneur building your first business or a leader looking for your zenith moment, this conversation is going to pull back the curtain on reinvention, failure, and the mindset required to win in 26 and beyond. Please share this episode with 3 friends. Boaz Gilad, welcome to the 5 a.m. podcast.
Thank you, Michael. I'm almost embarrassed by your introduction. Now I have big shoes to fill based on the bio.
That's one step at a time, my friend. One day at a time, one step at a time.
Yeah.
And we're going to dive right in, ladies and gentlemen. Boaz, you've mentioned that no one cares about your failures as much as you do. How did realizing that change the way you look at risk?
That's a great question, Michael. Look, so if you don't mind, I'll start you with a story. So,
Okay.
because I
Yes.
think there was an aha moment for me that really symbolized what you just asked. So and we're probably going to talk more about it, but I ran a nice sized company, New York. I'm based in New York City. Nothing is big so it doesn't matter
Yes.
how big you are. There's someone next to you who is bigger, right? But I took my company public. I ran a public company for almost 7 years. And then it completely collapsed. I mean, I had a hustle takeover. I lost everything. And to clear my mind, I consulted with my wife. And I said, what do I have to do to really? She said, why don't you just do something you always wanted to? So I took my bicycle, and I cycled from New York City to the Florida Keys by myself.
Wow.
Which is a cool story. We could go into but
Yes.
that's not my point. Here's the point. Here's like the exact, to answer what you have. I was cycling, I think it was in South Carolina, by myself. Every day you wake up in some cheap hotel and you just keep on cycling. You listen to
Yes.
podcasts and music and all those things. And I stopped in a gas station. It was a hot day, and I got some drinks, and I was sitting there, and I was so busy. I was just coming out of losing my company, and I was dealing with legal stuff and all those challenges and fiscal issues and banks. And I look around and I said, wow, no one gives a crap.
Hmm.
I realized how there was like aha moment, when I realized that all that 6 months of not sleeping at night,
Yeah.
worries, concerns, the world is so much bigger than me and my little story. Even though I was a big deal and I was like whatever, the cover of the New York Times business
Yes.
section, and but I realized how insignificant I am. It actually gave me freedom to go back to your question.
Hmm.
I think when I realized how insignificant I am, and I was, and I will be, it actually gave me a lot of freedom. So for me, that was a blessing. That was not a curse, to realize how not important I am.
That's great. And seeing as how you brought up cycling, which I love, and I was actually planning on taking my bike out for an hour or so this morning. Let's talk a little bit about the cycling trip, because
Sure.
that's a feat, ladies and gentlemen. What a great opportunity that time on the saddle of a bicycle is for thoughts and
Yes.
clarity. Can you talk maybe a little bit more about how your mindset changed from the start of the bicycle ride to the end of it?
So, okay, so I think that you're giving me opportunity to tell many stories. So I left in the morning. With cycling, Michael, you're a cyclist. You
Yeah.
can't really plan. I mean,
Right.
there's a limit time, because you can start cycling. It's a beautiful day. It's sunny outside. And then a rain starts, a storm starts, or
Yes.
winds, something that you even predict. You can even look at the sky and see how. So I had to ride till about 2 p.m. and then turn on an app, one of those
Hmm.
hotel apps,
Yep.
and and then find wherever I can stay, right? But so I started in New York City. I took the ferry to New Jersey, and I cycled, and within 10 minutes, I had a flat. I was like, oh, okay, it's New Jersey. We New Yorkers, we make
Yes.
fun of Jersey. Okay, I got to get flat. All good. I'm all excited, full of adrenaline. And then I fixed my flat and I kept on writing. And then 2 hours later, I got another flat. And then that was the beginning of the trip. I realized I have really, for the next 3 weeks, give or take,
Yeah.
I have no say in how it's going to go.
Hmm.
So there was like 2 weeks when I couldn't really, there was no flats. It was smooth and perfect. And there were days which I was like cursing the moment I started this trip. So the difference between beginning and the end is that kind of, I would say, almost like a spiritual experience, like a Zen space
Yes.
that you just go with the flow. You go with the flow of the river. You stop in the beginning. Especially, look, I'm a New Yorker. I grew up in Israel. Israelis
Yep.
are tough. That's the image we have, and we kind of like,
Yep.
um, and I like to say how things are going to go. And I'm not saying you should give that away, but when you cycle, when you do things long
Hmm.
term, could be riding, cycling, the road trip, you kind of realize that forces are stronger than you, and you just have to roll the punches and get the best out of it. So I think that's the difference between the beginning, the first day, and the
Yes.
last day. And I've done a few other long trips since then.
Right. Well, and getting those flats, ladies and gentlemen, are one of those things. It takes a little bit of wind out of your sails because, and you have these goals that you try and set, and not only that, but you've got a wall to break through. Well, for me anyway, every morning I had a wall, and I knew it was getting tough, but I timed the wall, and to prepare myself, I would say, okay, it's going to get a little harder. I'm going to break through that wall, and so those flat tires, they would actually come you're in a good stride,
Yeah.
and,
And
uh
look, no different than in life. We
that's
all get
right.
flat tires. I mean, you're planning I don't think anyone leaves the house in the morning, so I'm going to have an accident today.
Yes,
Like the definition of accident is they're not predictable.
yes,
So, I think that's how life goes. It's a
yes,
great lesson. Yeah.
and we have those toolkits with us to repair our tires, and I have, one story that I'm gonna share with you, and I'm gonna ask, if you encountered something like this. It was on my way home, it was a Friday, uh, I was looking forward to the weekend, and I was looking forward to enjoying the stress relieving that my bike was from a busy day of production, and I saw these storm clouds in the distance that were not there in the morning, and halfway through my bike ride, I was drenched. My shoes were soaking. The rain was, like, coming down in buckets. Can you talk about some of those spots, maybe whether it's your business career or this bike trip, it was a point of no return. You knew that you just had to face those storm clouds head on.
Yes. I think it happens often. I think that, people ask me in retrospective, what
Mm,
I should have done differently with my business when it was going down. And I thought about it for a while because, of course, I can write a long book about all the mistake I've made. I've made so many
mm,
mistakes. But saying that, I think for that moment was the right decision. And
mm.
I say that in a broader way. So it's no difference than at that moment you look at the clouds, you're like, I'm gonna make it at home. I'm
Yes,
gonna make it home by the time it's gonna start raining. If it's gonna rain, it was the right decision that moment. And then you have to deal with it. So I think that wasting my time and energy and anyone's
mm,
time on trying to figure like being a Monday morning quarterback is just
yes,
complete waste of time.
yeah,
And at that moment, that's the decision you made. Now be responsible for it. Take responsibility and deal with the circumstances and the consequences of what you've done. And if that means that you're getting home soaked, fine, no problem.
yes.
Just sing in the rain while you're
That's
riding
right.
with the winds.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of those things when we go through those hard times, some people might look at them like failures. Some people might want to put on masks, which I'm going to ask you about in a few minutes. But there is that. little personal trophy that we can give ourselves of I knew nobody else was riding their bike 45 minutes home into a rainstorm. Can you talk a little bit about psyching ourselves up and taking those wins to know that we've done something that maybe people only talk about?
Yes. It's I led workshops and seminar to thousands of people, and I would say the room is split. I can walk in, I can kind of smell it because I've done it for so many years. The room is split to 80-20. I would say even 90-10. What do I mean by that? 90%. So 90% of the room don't get off the couch. It
Mm,
doesn't matter how great your lecture is, they are addicted to inspiration. So like,
yes.
come on, let's do it. Come on, Michael, we can do it. And then within, it's kind of like, inspiration is like a sugar rush.
Yeah.
You get a hype very fast, then it drops very fast, right? It's not sustainable. You can't live off sugar.
Hmm.
You got to have more nutritions in your diet. So business diet, life diet, the same thing, right? So 90% of my room were people who were basically addicted to inspiration. They're like, okay, let's do it. And come on. And then it declines. By the way, the businesses like gyms that are
Yeah.
based on that. The whole idea of a gym is that January comes, people get New Year's resolution, they oversubscribe. Like, so there's like,
Yep.
let's say 300 spots, they sell 1,000 spots, knowing that by March
Mm,
and April, there'll be about 70% decline. And by June, the place is going to be empty. And then January
yeah.
starts again. So,
That's right.
so some businesses are built on that. So the same in my room, I spend so much time and effort in trying to convince, inspire, transform the way those people are. And I was like, why am I wasting so much time? Again, no judgment. I'm not saying anything
Hmm.
bad about them. But then I noticed that it's much more fascinating, interesting to work with the other 10%. And that
Hmm.
10% was what I call top performers. People have that level of integrity, that level that they collect, to your point about
Yeah.
the trophy. And again,
Yeah.
it was your own trophy. It's not like you got
That's
home
right.
and your wife was waiting for you with the trophy. You're like,
Yeah.
Michael, I'm so proud of you
Yes.
running in the rain. That was
Yeah.
not that. Right? It was like your internal, because I think here's the lesson here. After you came in, I'm assuming, Michael, and correct me if I'm wrong, um, when you got back home, trenched, soaked, but proud,
Oh, yes.
you knew you can do it again.
Oh, yes.
So the biggest
Absolutely.
lesson is that when you operate outside of your comfort zone, it becomes part of your comfort zone. So you kind of
Yes.
push the boundaries, you push the borders of what's possible, and next thing,
Mm,
you can do it again.
yes. Yeah, absolutely. And the other component of riding the bike almost is kind of like the final exam, in the sense that we have to prepare to ride the bike. We have to prepare to launch out into a new venture. For me, I knew that I had to do squats. I had to do some physical weight training. Your knees need to be protected by the muscles surrounding it. So, can you talk a little bit then about that community as business builders or doing something that you can get a trophy for, but maybe nobody else is going to care, but we still have to have that support system. Can you talk a
Yes.
little bit about that?
Yeah, I think it's critical because one of the challenges I see with people I work with is that the team around them is not sufficient
Mm.
to I'll call the game they're playing. So, by the way, I actually have a piece on Substack this week about the team because I see
Yes.
people who are very, very successful and very good. And it's all about like, I've done it, I've done it. Like it's the American spirit, right? Like I've done it
Yeah.
myself, which is great. It's kind
Yes.
of the American spirit. And it's great. It's a good beginning, right? It's limited. And why is it limited? Because you constantly have to ask yourself, like the way Michael, you spoke about, we're going back to the cycling, about you
Hmm.
have to prepare your body
Yeah.
for that new challenge, right?
Yes.
One that needs to ask him or herself is the system around me, is the team around me sufficient to support the level I'm playing? And what do I mean by that? I mean that um, you know, I give this example of like cycling. Look, I'm a weekend cyclist, right? So I don't need support. I will ride
Yeah.
with my friends or by myself. And if there's a problem, I call my wife. I said, honey, come pick me up. I have a flat. I don't feel like changing it or something happened. If
Yep.
you look at Tour de France, right? There's
Yeah.
literally hundreds of people behind every cyclist. They
Hmm.
have nutritionists and chefs and massage therapists and coaches and mechanics and anything about it. Now, if you take a picture of me and one of the cyclists, if you don't know the details, you probably,
Yeah.
oh, they're both cyclists, right? Why? The level they're playing it is completely different than the level I'm playing in. I'm playing in
Yeah.
weekend riding. They play to be the best cyclist in the world. So you need to pause and ask yourself: is the team around me, is the infrastructure, not just team, but is the team around me sufficient to the game I'm playing?
Mm.
You know,
Wow.
and
Yes.
and let me just, if you don't mind, I'll
Yep.
add one more thing. Why do I
Please.
say the word game? Because I see life as a series of games.
Hmm.
Life is what is a game? A game is a activity that is limited by time, has scores, okay, and has a task. Could be individual games, a game. Everything. Life is a game. Life ends. It's gonna end eventually. People are gonna look.
Hmm.
Oh, you're gonna look at the last moment of your life, looking at your life. You're like, what's the score? What's the game I want to play? Do I want to create as much as a healthy family or healthy
Hmm.
business or or I want to be fit and healthy? Whatever the scores you're going to create for yourself. So life is just made out of many games.
Yeah.
And what I see often is how people say, I'm going to do it, and then the infrastructure around them is just not effect. They're
Hmm.
not sufficient.
Yes. And then the flip side of that is, and I tell this to young guys, 20 years my junior, to get into cycling because cycling strengthens every part of your body. And it's almost like there's this, well, it's not almost like there's this reciprocity between what we've done to prepare ourselves and our team. And then can you talk a little bit about this, the benefit that comes back to the team? And I think about the benefit that comes back to my whole muscle skeletal system from cycling.
Yeah. So if we take that example you gave and we expand it, I think you need to be, I would say, even obsessed
Hmm.
by the value of your team. If
Yeah.
you're thinking about it's all about you're going to lose it because people are going to lose unless you pay them a lot of money, and even that
Yeah.
is not guaranteed. But
Hmm.
sometimes, when you throw so much money at someone, they will play right,
Yeah.
or they will support you. But first of all, most of us, I would say, have a limit of how much money we have. We're not
Yes,
Jeff Bezos or something.
that's right.
But also, I think it's a much more interesting and fascinating and effective way to do is interact with thinking about what is the value of the person inside the team. How can I, by fulfilling what I'm doing,
Hmm.
how can I create an atmosphere of team? How can I create self drive with someone who's not directly connected to us, but it's part of a team? And one of the example I like to use is Formula One. You see, if you follow
Hmm.
Formula One a little bit, you see those guys who change the wheels, right? I'm always
Yeah.
fascinated by those guys. By the way, they're making a killing. When I was visiting Formula One, I spoke with them. They're actually making really good high salaries because they're top
Wow.
of their
Yeah.
game.
Yeah.
But think about it. If you want to like really downplay what they're doing, they're waiting there with a tire in their hand, and they have 2.3 seconds to change a tire. I
Yeah.
mean, if I want to be a jerk about it, I'm like, what's the big deal? The guy changed tires. No. It is they have to be in top shape and have to be coordinated, have to practice, have all those things, right? Now,
Hmm.
if I'm a selfish driver, I'm like, who cares? This guy just changing my tires. But if you're the manager of the team, of the Formula One team, you want to create an atmosphere where that guy that puts the tire and change it within 2.3 seconds, which is mind blowing to me, right?
Yes.
He is as excited, as committed, and he gets his own fulfillment satisfaction by being part of the bigger picture. And I think
Yeah.
that's critical. Like if you're a business owner, get curious, get fascinated, get obsessed by how can I make sure the youngest junior person in my team, in my company, is as fulfilled as I in the
Mm.
top where I'm doing well and I can go on nice vacations and take care of my family.
Yes. Oh, that's great. And I'll say I will be remiss if I didn't mention my grandfather. He rode his bicycle till he was 95. The only reason he stopped is because his MD said you got to get off the bike. Thank God for long, healthy lives.
Yeah. Father-in-law is 88 years old and he cycle 5 miles a day, 5 to 10 miles a day
Is
every
that
morning.
right? Ah,
5:30 in the morning. By the way, 5 a.m. podcast.
yes.
5:30 in the
Yes.
morning. 88 years old. He gets up. He's a Holocaust survivor, right?
Wow.
Doesn't matter. He gets up every day, and 5 a.m. he's on his bike.
Wow. Well,
Yeah,
there's a gentleman I'd love to hear sit
yeah.
down and get some stories from and take a spin on the bicycle with. I want to pivot off to the businessman or the businesswoman, and they're going through and they hit roadblocks. They think some things are failures, and so they find a mask to put on because they think that they need to hide some self-perceived deficiencies. Let's say what would be that biggest mask you see high achievers wearing today that's actually maybe holding them back or limiting their vision?
Yeah, I think the challenge, Michael, is that we live in a culture, I think mainly because of social media,
Mm,
where
mhm.
success is uh, an illusion. And what I mean by that, success is success. I'm saying the image of a success is an illusion. People see on Instagram. I have 3 kids. See a guy driving a Lamborghini, and he's like, "I bought
Ah,
crypto, and
yes.
I've done, I sold this." And maybe there's a few of them. I'm not as talented as those people are, but I think a lot of them are faking it,
Hmm.
and we live in that culture. So even if you don't follow that, I would say stupidity, it's still the culture. It's all about like, I'm successful now. Look, we have a president, and put politics aside. One of his strengths, and again, put aside what we think about
Yes.
him, is like he never say I failed in this or I failed that. It's always like, I'm successful, I'm successful, I'm successful. That was the image he built, Donald Trump, on like
Hmm.
that. So I think it's in everywhere you can see social media and politics, and everything. But one of the illusions, one of the reason I want to look, I did a podcast on mask, is because I found that young people think that success is a linear.
Mm.
You do one thing and you're successful, and then you do the other thing, you're successful, and then you do the other thing. It's actually, when you speak with successful people, it doesn't matter if it's in music or politics or business or health and fitness, it's a roller coaster.
Yeah.
And going downhill actually gives you the momentum to go uphill. So going back to so it's
Hmm.
just an illusion to think that you're just going to keep on climbing up. That's actually quite boring. The beginning of the roller coaster when you go to like Six Flags or
Yes.
Disney, and you kind of go up like very slowly. Like, that's the boring part. Like, it's actually the momentum that you get that gets you excited. Now, back to your question about people when they experiencing. Uh, Look, it's quite hard. It's hard to have insights and vision and excitement when you're going downhill.
Hmm.
When you're failing, you are so in the world of failing that you have to be really trained and brilliant to see the upside in failing. Because right now you're going down, you're diving, right? So first of all, I think one of the first thing is compassion.
Hmm.
Understand, first of all, that the nature of the road is that there will be ups and downs. So you let go of that illusion that it's a linear growth up, okay? And
Yeah.
then just let the downhill run its course. I'm not saying not stop working. Keep on pounding and pounding and pounding and working and try to figure out and try things and fail and try. And it's all about error and trial. But don't lose momentum,
Hmm.
and understand, oh my gosh, I'm like right now dealing with the biggest challenge of my life. I just have to have some compassion. And I
Yeah.
find one of the biggest thing I found with top performers, with business owners, is they have a lot of compassion to others. They don't have compassion towards themselves.
Mm.
And
Wow.
and that's a tough one, because you have to kind of like fake it till you make it. You got to put a brave face on, and you have to show up at work or talk to investors as you're losing money, or showing up at home and saying to your significant other, "Look, we don't have money this month to pay all the bills." So whatever you're dealing with, you got to pause and say, by the way, the game, right? Like,
Hmm.
you're playing an extraordinary game. And what I mean extraordinary, it's like out of the ordinary. That's
Yeah.
extraordinary, right? So give yourself some space to fail, compassion, and then when you have more time, then we can talk about how do you learn and what's the mistake you've made. But don't lose that elasticity, that flexibility of trying different things and
Mm.
kind of figuring out as you moving to the next goal.
Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com. I want to ask you about your book, The Zenith Code. But before we get to that,
Yeah.
you've mentioned your wife a couple of times. I wanted to ask you for some insights, maybe from the book of Ruth, because we talked about that just off the top. Your name fits right in there with Boaz. In your upbringing, was there something that your parents or your grandparents put into you of this man that we read about who was a landowner, successful in his agriculture business? He had staff. Was there any part of that that came into your life that built who you were as a business person?
What a great question, Michael. Well, let's see. I'll start with a joke. Sue, my
Okay.
wife,
Okay.
says that if she catch that Ruth, she'll have a conversation with her, because you know. But but I I don't know the answer. Here's what I want to say about that.
Okay.
I grew up. Both my parents are immigrants. My dad came from Argentina to Israel, and my mom came
Mm,
from Switzerland to Israel. And I think they chose the name Boaz because Boaz is a very powerful beyond the fact that he was grandfather of David King, and then if Christian, it was great grandfather of Jesus. And there's something that carries that weight. Boaz is if you and I love the book also. Not like I had a choice in the matter
yes.
of the name, but it was given to me. So I think that by the way, literally the translation of Boaz, it's split to two words in ancient Hebrew, which means arrive with strength.
Wow.
So yeah, Bo becomes arrive, and Oz is strength. So I think that my parents definitely wanted me to be strong, not tough, but strong. Develop sensitivity, compassion to others, but have that generosity that Boaz is in the Bible. We read about
Hmm.
Boaz being generous, being a wealthy person because he's maybe generous, because he's willing to give and feed the hunger and not being arrogant about it. I think that's something that definitely my parents have given to me.
Right.
That responsibility one carries when successful.
Right.
Yeah.
The thing that struck me, even as a young boy, of reading about Boaz, is that he came where his workers were in their busiest time in harvest, and he actually slept with them where they were laboring, and he co-labored. He wasn't just this person shouting orders and telling people to get to work. Um, can you talk a little bit about that attitude of being in the thick of it with the team that's supporting you?
Yeah, I can't tell you how critical it is. I had a partner, not to badmouth anymore, but I had a partner that has a very different attitude. Had
Mm,
partners that said, "Look, this is my business. I work very hard. You work for me." End of story. You give yourself fully as an employee from 9 o'clock till 6 p.m. That's the end of the story. And I
uh,
had a really hard time with it. There's something bigger than us. Yes, we enjoy most of the fruit of the labor of the employees, and they
mhm.
chose to be employees. It's a choice in life. By
Yeah.
the way, games. It's a game you play. You
Yes,
can
that's
play the
right.
game of employee. You can play the game of employer. And how many vacations did I go on that I was barely on the vacation with my kids because I was so busy because something happened in my business, or there's
Hmm.
months when I went through 2008, financial crisis, and I lost, my real estate holding. So, and the employees kept on getting a salary. So there's a lot of things. Again, I'm not saying one is better than the other, but there's a responsibility to take care of everybody around you. And it wasn't about financial responsibilities. It wasn't about like I can make more money if I take care of my employees. Yes, that's the case, and it's a secondary thing. For me, it's really about the right thing to do. I don't know another way to say it. This is the right
Yeah.
thing. The right thing to do is appreciate and thank people who have. I have a little practice I do. Actually, I have a great. One of my clients had a great experience. I make sure to acknowledge people on a daily basis,
Mm-hmm.
and and because I took on acknowledging people on a daily basis, I'm so aware of the gap when I don't. How many
Mm.
times I walk into a coffee shop and a barista gives me coffee and I don't really thank them? Not just like, hey, thank you, like kind of like, okay, grab it because you're polite, right? Talk about
Yeah.
acknowledging, look in the name tag, say, oh, thanks, Mary. I really appreciate this. Or when I walk out, I go like, oh, that cappuccino was delicious. I really appreciate those little things from my dry cleaning to the coffee shop to
Hmm.
the person who puts gas in my car.
Yeah.
I think it's so critical not only to do it so people get acknowledged, because I don't think we acknowledge people. I think in today's world, managers are so overwhelmed by the task they were giving to, they don't have time to manage.
Yeah.
And manage is actually interacting with humans. If you look at corporate jobs, people have so many things to do and all the systems and all the software that helps you. Actually, pausing and acknowledging people is critical because it empowers them and it empowers you.
Hmm.
It makes you feel great when you get a smile from someone who, is give a. So I think this is a critical thing of the team that you keep on practicing acknowledgement of others, and that's the
Yeah.
right thing to do.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well,
Yeah.
that's great. Well, let's pivot to talking about your book, The Zenith
Sure.
Code. And in this book, you talk about performance myths. Is there a common piece of the hustle culture, uh, a piece of advice maybe within the hustle culture that you think is maybe complete garbage or misguided?
Yeah, working hard.
Hmm.
And when I say working hard, I don't mean should work because people say, "Oh, work smart, not hard." No, no, working hard is a critical part. It's not sufficient.
Hmm.
So I can't tell you how many clients I have that work crazy hard and they're not successful. Because working hard is something, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm going to keep on banging my head against the wall till there's a crack. But
Yeah.
the reality is you get a headache and you bleed eventually, right?
Yes. Right.
So one of the myths that people have is that they don't spend much time on the infrastructure. They spend too much time on the working.
Hmm.
And what do I mean by that? I'm like, look, if we grew up in a house that you saw your parents or the culture you come from is that they're working hard, you're like, that's what I know to do. I know to wake up earlier. I know to, well,
Yeah.
that's fine, great. I'm not, and again, you cannot sit on the couch, like we said earlier, and expect life to come your way because it doesn't happen. It's just like, well, I'm going to manifest $1 million. Good luck. You got
Yes.
to get up and you got to work.
Exactly.
Like you said in the beginning, you got to feed the cows.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
um, so it's not, people don't spend time on the infrastructure. One of the reasons I sat down and wrote the book after I led so many seminars is because I realized people don't have the framework of
Hmm.
where to put the energy in.
Yeah.
So if you actually take time and pause and think about the smartest way to work hard, you will then get momentum. You sort of see a tipping point of the results. And I think that's a myth. I think people are so obsessed by working hard, they don't spend time working smart. And you got to find those two.
Hmm. No, that's good. So we still have a bunch of time left in this delightful conversation, but someone might be wanting to say, Michael, how do I get in touch with Boaz? So can you share your contact information with the listeners?
Sure. So it's really simple. So you see my name on the screen and it's boazgilad.com. My company's name is zenithclubhouse.com, and you can find it on LinkedIn. And I make a conscious effort to get back to everyone. So
Hmm.
everyone who reach out to me, they need support, they need help. I'm happy to give things away. And look, the reason I wrote the book is because I felt like people are walking away from my seminars and not having the tools to keep on going.
Right.
So that's why I'm like, it's a handbook. Like the whole idea is like you can write down things and erase them and write it again. So that's the whole thing. So just boazgilad.com, you'll find
That's
me
good.
there.
Yes.
Yeah.
And ladies and gentlemen, I need to mention the Substack that Boaz has as well.
Thank you.
And of course, this week, as we're looking, we see the picture of the rugby team. And one of the, I know, Boaz, one of the things that I could do a little bit more, that could use a little more diligence is my writing, which I enjoy doing. But can you talk a little bit about maybe some of the feedback that you get from the people that interact with you on Substack?
Yeah. So look, I write Substack for myself.
Ah, okay.
And I have a nice feedback and people respond to me on LinkedIn and on Substack.
Hmm.
And the reason why I took on writing is, first of all, as you know, Michael, in today's, if you want to be known, if you want to make an impact. And for me, the seminars, the book, the podcast, it's
Hmm.
all about making a difference with people's life.
Yeah.
Uh, so you have to be everywhere, from social media, which I don't like, but I'm on it,
Yep.
right? And to Substack. And the reason why I took on Substack on is because I'm not a writer. Because for me, writing the two books, my first
Mm.
book was written in partnership with my wife, who is a writer, and she's
Okay.
many things, but she's also a writer. It's a practice. It's operating outside of my comfort zone because there's two things that really work against me. One is I'm dyslexic. So for
Mm.
me, writing is difficult. The
Yeah.
other one, I'm foreigner. I grew up in a different country. I grew up in a different language. I came to the U.S. when I was 21. So it's not natural for me to write. It's natural for me to speak, to interact
Hmm.
with audience. And I said, what a great opportunity for me to sharpen that tool. And so again, that's why I started writing. And Substack is one of those great places when one thing there's like a this this uh, virtual growth that you can control. Someone leads something. Now I write about the issues that I'm dealing with, which is
Right.
performance.
Yeah.
I deal with business performance and life performance, not performance like acting, but like performance in like
Hmm.
elevating your abilities. So that's what I write about. But I write when I finish the piece, and to give credit to everything. ChatGPT helps a lot. I'm
Yes.
writing the pieces and I run it again, and I'm like, that's not what I meant. So I heard a great conversation. I forgot the name of the guy. Maybe I'll come back. It said, "Be the thinker, but use AI." Right. So I'm not.
Yeah.
So I write the piece independently of AI, but then I feed it and I get back. I have this
Yeah.
like dialogue back and forth, and a piece takes me 40 minutes versus 3 hours because I
Right.
keep on adding it and and correcting all the. As a dyslexic person, I make a lot of
Yep.
mistakes, and so that helps me. But again, it's a practice for me because it's so uncomfortable. It
Right.
is not comfortable for me to write.
Yeah. And yet there's so much fruit that is
Yes,
there.
exactly.
That is
Yeah.
there. Now, you've already touched on the losing it all and the deep valley experience. But there comes the rebuilding after losing. The Bible is full of these stories of, whether it's Nehemiah or David having his experiences of having to pursue, overtake, and recover all. And so, for those listeners that they're in that spot, like that valley of the shadow of death or something like that, and the project is failing and feels like he or she is hurting cats. What is that first step to actually have a performance awakening?
Yeah. Michael, I think that if we had a chance to interview someone when they're in the eye of the storm, where
Mm.
really are like walking through the valley of death, they really experience it could be a health situation, a family situation, divorce, a business going bad, your health collapsing. It's a very difficult moment. It's very hard. But if we actually interview them, what I think the experience I had when I speak with those people is being overwhelmed. The forces that works against you, that's at least the experience you're having in
Hmm.
life. It's so powerful. It really works against you. And when the first simplest exercise I ask people is that write a list of things you need to do. And what do I mean by that? I'm like, no, but you understand, I'm dealing with the thing is my wife left me, or I just moved out of the house, and I'm like, and she wants to take everything away from me, or I'm not talking to my husband, he was abusive, whatever it is that they're dealing with, right? I said, just make a list. And why am I asking that? That's the first step. The first is because when you have a list of things, it's manageable. Even if there's 1,000 things on the list, and it's never 1,000. I never saw someone
Hmm.
putting 1,000. It's generally between 20 to 50 things. But if you're very, if you're very deep and you're going to make 100 things to do. Now it's a list.
Yeah.
Now you can manage it. Now you can use your intellect and say, okay, what is the priorities? What are the first thing I have to do? And there's two ways to deal with it. You start with the easiest thing, then you move to the difficult
Hmm.
thing, or things that are more urgent, and then you move to things less urgent. There's no right and wrong. It depends on the situation.
Yeah.
But when you make a list, you step away from the overwhelmness, because when you are walking through that valley,
Hmm.
you are so emotions are so hyped. You're so stressed. Your body's stressed. Your heart is pumping. You're like all those things happening for you. You cannot even see right. And if you make a list, it's not, oh, now I have to, now it's started to like put like those guardrail
Yeah.
on the task ahead. Okay. So I think that's a critical thing to do. Just literally pause, take 10 minutes, make a list. Just make a list and don't go, oh, but then it's going to lead to this. Just make a list. And then the other thing is makes list of tomorrow, not
Hmm.
what's going to happen in 3 months. Because again, the 3 months or 3 years is an overwhelming thinking.
Yeah.
So if you just make a list, what do I want? I literally, when I was losing my company, I woke up every day and I said, what are the things I'm going to do now? Just now. And then I made a list and I followed and followed and followed, and 6 p.m. another day passed. Another exercise I love doing with people is when you're really down, when you're really, really down, again, it's 90% psychology. I'm not disregarding the experience. I think it's terrible.
Hmm.
I've been there. It's really, really, really awful. I haven't slept in 6 months when I was losing my company. And but it's 90% psychology and 10% rational. And one of the things I asked people, I said, I want you to write a full page of the worst going to happen. Like go down that rabbit hole. Like go, you think you're deep, go further down.
Yeah.
Like deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. Like what is the worst thing that can happen to you? And here's what my findings are. I find two things. First of all, things are not as bad or as good as you think they're going to be.
Hmm.
Things in life are never as bad as you think
Yeah.
or never as good as you think. Right.
That's right.
So when you do the exercise, actually diving really deep and saying, oh my gosh, now I lose it. Okay, you're going to lose your business. Okay, now I'm going to have no money. Okay, let's just keep on going then. You're like, oh, wow, actually, I don't think I'm going to lose my business. I think I'm just going to go through a difficult time. Or I think if I lose my business, I can take a job and work in somewhere else for 6 months and get back on my feet and work it out. Or I can declare bankruptcy. Or yeah, there's solutions, right? But when you actually look at the worst moment, you realize it's not so bad and you can
Yeah.
do something about it. And that gives some people the the space, the distance a little bit from the psychological overwhelm space to
Yeah.
use the rational go like, oh, it's actually not going to be that bad. I can go down the. And by the way, look, to go back to the point we brought in the beginning when we were talking about cycling, no one gives a crap, and that's the
Yes.
good.
That's
Really,
right.
like you have to understand, even if you die, and I'm saying it in a very extreme way, just a provocative thing
Yes.
to your look. When I die, people are gonna cry and go get lunch.
Hmm. Yes.
That's how life is. Even my kids, my wife, like people loving they're gonna cry. Maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe 3 days. They're gonna get lunch. Life keeps on going. The world, the universe is so much bigger than us. So I
Yeah.
think that's if you do those two exercises, a list of actions, and go down the rabbit hole and describe the worst. That's going to be the beginning of the exit.
One of the things that I've shared with our listeners here, if you are having a dark night of the soul, let's say, and you're having trouble sleeping, write down 3 things you accomplished today before bed. Have that little notepad there and just write down 3 accomplishments or 3 wins or 3 things that were not losses. It's just been such a great conversation, ladies and gentlemen. And if you've been enjoying it as much as Boaz and I'm presuming that are prevailing upon him for his enjoyment of this conversation, share this with some friends. I'm sure that there's a name rolling around in your head of oh, so and so needs to hear this conversation, and we will both say yes they do. So be a good friend and share with them. Now, Boaz, I wanted to ask you about the time of your studies at the Stella Adler Conservatory and
Yeah.
that vulnerability that is required in acting, or maybe authenticity as opposed to vulnerability is required in acting, but it's actually something I think that could make someone a better CEO. Would you agree?
Yes, and it's amazing you asking. You've really done your homework, Michael. It's been so many years. So as a kid, I was an actor, and I saw myself just as an actor. So when I came to New York, I came to study acting in New York, and I went to Stella Adler Conservatory, which is a great school, and study acting. And I speak often with business because I'm in the business world, and I speak
Hmm.
very often with parents who come and say, "Oh my gosh, like we have a family business, and my kid is all about performance, and she wants to be an actress, or he wants to be an actor, and the musicals and all that thing." And I can't tell you how many benefits I got from it. I'll tell you just
Mm.
three things. Just
Yes.
three things. One is when you're an actor in New York, and like any other successful actor in New York, I was waiting tables between shows
Yeah.
and auditions. You are so used to getting the answer no that
Mm.
after a while you don't care. You walk into audition and you do a monologue or whatever it is, and they're like, "No, thank you." And it could be because you're too high,
Yep.
you're too short, you're too fat, you're too thin, you have an accent, you don't have an accent, you look. Doesn't matter, right? But you train yourself to the word no. Now,
Mm.
is it different in business? Not at all. But it doesn't matter if you're a CEO or you. Businesses are all about sales. Either you sell yourself to your boss, or you sell to when you want to increase in salary, or if you're CEO, you sell into investors your vision, or if you're a salesperson, that's obvious. That's what you do for.
Right.
So one of the biggest thing I got is that the ability to not take no personally. That was
Mm.
a critical one. Okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is that a great actor, and I'm not saying I was, but I'm saying great actor. I went to great school. Um, Learn how to read other.
Mm.
So if you look at
Yeah.
Al Pacino, Robert De Niro, like if Meryl Streep, like great film actors, they act, and that's not who they are. They act, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they have the ability to read the emotions, the intellect, the behavior, the mannerism of someone else, a different character.
Yeah.
And if you learn that, then it's extraordinary because you walk into a room, and you get a sense of who's the interviewer
Yeah.
and who's the person, who you're talking to, what are they committed to, what are you not. I mean, and then you do your homework, by the way, in business. It's critical to do your homework. Michael, one of the things I've done before we got together, I watched a few of your podcasts because I was fascinated. Like, what's this style of Michael? Like, how does he
Yes.
dress? If I'm going to get on with a suit and a tie and you wearing T-shirts with
Yes.
like a tattoo on it,
Right.
look, we can get over it, but it will be a missed opportunity for us to connect. So, as a business owner, one of the things I learned as an actor is to read the room and read and dress proper according to the other side, not according to what I want, and really be clear about what's the message I want to
Mm.
pass. We want
Mm-hmm.
to pass the message of I'm a casual guy who's can hang out with you and have a beer, or
Yeah.
I'm like no, I'm like a very successful, wealthy guy. I'm going to be here for 100 years because I've been here 100 years before. Again, not wrong, but it's acting. It is, and
Right.
that's every person does it.
Yes. Yes. And well, seeing as how we're speaking of the theater, uh, and those characteristics that are so subjective of what people are looking for. I love the work of Woody Allen, and I know he said at one point that he failed to make the chess team because of his height. So you just never know, ladies and gentlemen, what that is going to be. But we keep moving forward, and one step in front of the other. Now, another thought that I had that I wanted to run by you. What does it mean to be secular in Shul? And how do you take that ancient wisdom and apply it to the secular business world?
Wow. Um, so do you mean, just to be clear, like, so do you mean like my personal beliefs,
Yes.
or do you mean
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah.
look, uh, being Jewish and being Israeli, and Judaism is way more than a religion.
Mhm.
It's a nation, it's a belief, it's a culture. So one of the beautiful things, it's a very unique religion to some degree that it never, by the way, since the rabbinical, I'm not an expert whatsoever. I love learning and I'm taking
Yeah.
classes, and I grew up in Israel. The beauty is that the rabbis always did not demand you believing in God to be Jewish.
Mhm.
There was then I think they understood, and I'm not judging or saying
Yeah.
anything bad about any other religion, but I can speak only from my own experience. Is that the rabbinical learnings have said, look, we all struggling with the existence of God, uh, and therefore there's other ways to connect to being of a particularly a religion or group of people. So for me, my Judaism it gets manifested in cultural behavior. My kids
Mhm.
went to Jewish schools, and I celebrate the holidays. Passover is coming in a few days for
Yes.
us. And
Yeah.
at the same time, I'm secular. I don't keep the Sabbath. I don't keep kosher. And I feel very connected, and emotionally, I feel very connected. Not to anyone because look, one other thing I learned, I'm 54 years old. The older I get, the more I learn it, how not important it is. Because I don't care what you believe in. If you're a kind person, good for you.
Mhm. As we're having this conversation, I'm thinking back to a conversation I had at the end of 25 with Meyer Ezra. And he had a history being a member in the Navy and the Special Forces of the IDF, and had some extreme things in his life that he overcame. For our listeners, that was a phenomenal conversation. If you want to go back and look for the Meyer Ezra conversation, but you also, Boaz, have that background with the Israeli army.
Yes, I
Um,
was 3.5 years in a paratrooper
right.
for the Israeli army. Yeah,
And
yeah.
no small feat and no easy task. But how did that high stakes environment shape your view of disciplined execution compared to the way maybe it's taught in an MBA program?
So, two things. First of all, for me, the to be transparent about, for me, the army experience was very difficult.
Ah,
I'm
okay.
not one of those people who uh, cruise through it. Not physically, I'm talking mentally.
Okay.
I went to the army, the Israeli army, in 1989. I was
Wow.
18,
Okay.
and I served half of my service in Gaza, not the current
Wow.
Gaza, but Gaza
Okay.
before was
Yeah.
giving back to the Palestinians, and half of the service in South Lebanon. So I've done
Mhm.
a lot of things. And for me, it was very difficult. I think that looking back, um, we had different tools then. I would say I was depressed a lot of the time. The friction with the civil
Mhm.
society, was during the first Intifada, really impacted me. I felt that uh, I'm uh, I'm doing something I wasn't meant to do,
Mm.
and it wasn't political. It was about being a soldier, inter- interacting with civilians is very challenging. I think it's, if anyone has some background in the military, they probably can relate to that. In South Lebanon, I didn't have that experience because about like you shooting me, I'm shooting you, fine. Let's see who's going to win, right? To
Yeah.
be really blunt about it. But when you interact, when you walk into people's homes, families, it takes a toll. So on a personal level, the military service was very difficult for me. Saying that and being a paratrooper, one of the, and I'm not saying you should do that to
Mhm.
learn this lesson, but one
Yeah.
of the lessons I learned, I think the biggest lesson I learned is that um, what you think is possible to do is
Mhm.
not what you can do. Your
Yeah.
ability is way bigger than actually what's possible. And that's why I don't run marathons. And we spoke about
Yeah.
cycling because
Right.
people say, oh my gosh, I ran a marathon and I saw myself, I hit that wall and I went beyond it. I was like, I did it when I was 18. Like when I was
Yes.
18, I showed myself I can, when we was carrying stretches with people sitting on the stretch, like lying on the
Mhm.
stretch, you carry them 60 miles. You learn that your body is limited. Your mind is much brighter and
Yeah.
the ability to go beyond your physical abilities so I think that's something that became fundamental for me when I started business, when I was an actor, when I started my new business, when I lost things, is that whatever you think is possible for you,
Yeah.
you can do much more, and that's the biggest lesson I got from being a paratrooper.
Yeah. What a way to end off this hour with that. Susan and I have a saying, and it's in our swag store at 5ampodcast.com, but it's think it, speak it, see it. And certainly our minds are far more beyond what we could even ask for or imagine in power and strength. So, Boaz, thank you so much for your authenticity today. Sometimes it's rare to find someone who's reached the heights that you have and is willing to talk about the unmasked reality of the climb. So, thank you so much for being here today, Boaz.
Oh, it was such a pleasure. Thank you, Michael.
Yes, definitely. The pleasure was mine. And so, ladies and gentlemen, as you're listening, now maybe you're ready to stop settling for a highlight reel or that Instagram ready moment, and you would like to start living by the Zenith Code. I highly recommend following Boaz's work. You can join the conversation at zeniththeclubhouse.com. And I strongly suggest subscribe to that Substack that we talked about. He breaks down these performance myths in real time. So if you're a leader looking for an elite community and you want to push further, then that's the place to be. So, ladies and gentlemen, as I always say, please seize your day. Enjoy those sunrises and sunsets and all those beautiful adventures in between. I'm Michael Clausen, and I'll see you on the next 5 a.m. podcast. Thanks for watching the show. Just a reminder that you can get all of our resources, other episodes, and read our blog posts at 5ampodcast.com.